Welcome to the module on how to collect data in Kobo Collect. This is designed to be a half-day or full-day module, and we would recommend doing it over a full day if you've got participants in the class who've never collected data before. As a reminder of how this fits into the larger training on data for human rights, Kobo Collect is mainly a data collection tool. And during the data collection process, while people are out in the field, it can be an opportunity to mobilize communities and inform them about work that you're doing. On the back end, the survey supervisors will be able to filter and analyze data in a basic way by producing summary maps of any spatial data that were collected, summary graphs, and download any media like photos, audio recordings, etc. Kobo Collect is a data collection app that is mainly designed for mobile devices, though there is a web app data collection option. You can program in many different types of questions and also collect spatial data via Kobo Collect, that is points, lines, and shapes. You can also record photos, videos, audio, or get files to be uploaded from participants. It's a free tool, and you can use it offline in the field. The information on the left and the data collector view is all taking place on a mobile device. On the right, this is what supervisors will see on the back end when they log into the website for Kobo Collect. So they will get all of the submitted responses from all of the devices that are connected to the form or the questionnaire that's being executed in the field. And the supervisors will be able to download the compiled data as a spreadsheet, summary graphs, tables, maps, and media files. Here's an example of what Kobo Collect results look like as a spreadsheet. You have multiple submissions of forms from multiple data collectors. In this case, we've got a couple different teams, team D, G, T, F, all submitting forms and all of the data that's collected with each form. At this point, you've given participants enough background about Kobo Collect. It would be worth asking them what types of data can be collected or produced with Kobo Collect. The answer is actually that this is used for collecting all kinds of data. We mostly see it used for quantitative data or things that you can count and measure, though as we saw, we can record video and audio, so we could use it for qualitative interviews, and we can also collect spatial data. Early in the workshop, you'll want to get people involved with downloading and setting up Kobo Collect on their own mobile devices or a device that you provide to them. So in this first activity, it's based in the classroom. You're going to walk people through downloading Kobo Collect, connecting to the Kobo Collect server that was set up for the Data for Human Rights project. And people will download the Data for Human Rights training form onto their device. Then they'll open a blank form, answer some questions. You can just have them kind of mess around and save off responses in the class so that they get used to how this works. And then practice with them how to send form responses or submit their responses to the server before you send them to the field. This is a video with step-by-step instructions how to do that. It's also captured in the handout. As a note, this is a YouTube video, and you can click in the lower right-hand corner to make it full screen. Depending on your internet connection, it might take a while for Kobo Collect to download to multiple devices. And so this might actually take a pretty long time to do this activity. I oftentimes get people started as soon as we possibly can, and then we do other activities or take a lunch break or something like this. So there's time for the devices to download Kobo Collect, and then we can finish the activity with setting it up and practicing how to use it. Before you send people to the field, you want to review different types of questions that they might see in Kobo Collect. And this is also a very useful activity to take up the time you might need while things are downloading to people's devices. So here are the common file types that you'll see, and we'll go through some examples. The first is a text or number type of question where you simply enter a numeric or alphanumeric value. Slider questions where you can have people rate something on a line between low and high. Date and time questions where you select a button and it brings up a calendar or a clock. Select one response from a couple of provided response options. Always our noted with a circle, and select all that apply questions are always noted with squares, and you can check multiple boxes. GPS point data collection is as simple as pushing a button. So you push the button Start GeoPoint, this gray screen will pop up. Will let you know how many satellites you've connected to and how accurate the measurement is. And when you're less than 5 meters of error from the actual location, it will automatically save the GeoPoint to the phone. You can also collect traces or pathways, collecting points at selected intervals along a path. You can also collect the boundary of an area by having the data collector walk the perimeter and saving points along the way. They just need to return to their starting point to collect their endpoint, and it will close the shape for them. You can also have them take photos or choose photos from their phone. The same with audio recordings, start an audio recording or choose an audio recording that they've already saved on their phones. Video capture is the same. And if for some reason there's other files like PDFs or something that needs to be uploaded from their device, they can do that as well. Now let's talk about which questions will appear in the Data for Human Rights training form. There's only 6 questions. It's meant to be a simple area observation survey. You're asking participants to take pictures of different built environments or buildings. We don't necessarily want to collect people and have to deal with privacy issues. You'll see in a future slide that when the participants go to the field, they'll be split into teams, and the teams will be labeled A, B, C, D, etc. And so they select their team name on the first question. In the second question, they collect a GeoPoint at a place that they have navigated to or walked to. They will record that point location, and it will save automatically to their phone once the error is less than 5 meters. The third question is asking them which types of buildings they see from the location where they're doing data collection. Notice that this is a check all that apply because you see the square boxes. So ask them to check a bunch of boxes if necessary. The fourth question is how many buildings do you see from your current location? They enter a number here. In the fifth question, they're going to record how many levels of the tallest building that they see. So this gives us a sense of building height in the area where they're located. And the final question is to take a photograph of the buildings that they see at the location where they're doing an area observation. This photo should be in wide format, so widest from left to right. And if you're going to do an assessment with participants, emphasize this point because this is part of their assessment requirements. So once you've run through these, you can optionally do this little question with them and see if they can identify which types of questions each of these are. This might just be a quick review. So the first question is a select one, second is a GPS location, and so on. And this just gets them thinking about the types of questions they're going to encounter in the field. Now that you've downloaded Kobo Collect on everybody's devices, it's time to prepare them for a field activity. If you're formatting your training as a full day training, this might be something that happens in the afternoon after a lunch break. The first thing you're going to do for this activity is form teams of 2 people and name the teams A, B, C, D, etc. And you're going to make sure that everybody has practiced completing a Kobo Collect form in the class. So the same form that we saw on the previous slide, they can just make up answers. Once they're feeling comfortable with the form, they're going to go to the field and collect 2 area observations. We don't have any specific places that they need to go, and we don't want them to be away for too long. So we're just going to ask the teams to walk for approximately 5 minutes from the training facility in different directions so that everybody ends up at a different location. They're going to collect their first GPS point and do an area observation at this location about 5 minutes away. Then they're going to walk back to the training facility, and about halfway back, they're going to collect a second point location. If you're going to incorporate assessments and certificates into your training, note that you've got teams of 2 people and you've got 2 data points that need to be collected. So you ask them to have one person collect the first point and the second person to collect the second point. Upon returning to the class, we'll assume that they'll have internet access there. You'll ask them to send or submit their 2-point locations from the field so that they can be assessed. When they get back to the classroom, you'll want to do a debrief with them. First, understand what the field data collection was like for them. Tease out whether or not there were any technical challenges and help people find solutions. For example, were people having difficulty seeing the screen? Maybe the simple solution is to help them find the brightness button on their phone. There might be other technical challenges related to how to answer questions and getting consistent answers across the team. Those are really important kinds of questions to sort out. If you're doing a real field activity, you want to make sure that everybody is answering the same questions in the same kind of way, making the same judgments. A second set of challenges might relate to interacting with people. This is important, not in the training survey, because it's an area observation. They don't necessarily have to interview people or interact with the public. But once you start using this form in interviews, you'll start having issues with approaching strangers and how to navigate security guards and police officers on the street who are curious about what you're doing, and security risks, etc. So use this opportunity to talk about social challenges that people might have, and then how you want the data collectors to manage those situations. Generally speaking, there's a few tips that I always provide around staying safe and comfortable in the field. So I usually have people work in pairs. This helps them to navigate difficult social situations, physically navigate to areas if they have to follow directions, and help people just to stay motivated. Field work is really hard. It's boring sometimes. It can be in difficult weather environments. And so sometimes having a partner can just be helpful for staying motivated. Make sure that people are not entering situations that feel unsafe. That could be an unsafe neighborhood. There might be some police activity happening in the area. If that's happening and people are uncomfortable, they should call their supervisor and find a different solution. Maybe the supervisor suggests that they come back on a different day, or replace that data collection site with a different site, or drop the site, etc. Encourage people to write down the phone numbers of their supervisors. This is even something that supervisors might provide to the data collectors before an actual activity in the field, is to write down phone numbers so that in case something happens to someone's phone, they still have the written phone number. They can borrow a phone and get in touch with the supervisor and get support with dealing with a difficult situation. You want to make sure that your data collectors are identifiable in the field, either wearing a badge or a shirt with a logo that indicates that they're collecting data for an official purpose. You don't want them to get in trouble with residents or police because they are considered to be trespassing or something like that. There might be other issues around security and comfort that are specific to your survey. For example, just encourage people to wear comfortable shoes, have water with them, etc., when they go to the field. Before you finish up the training, it's important to tell the data collectors what's going to happen with the data and what exactly you're doing in terms of monitoring. This will help them make sure that the quality of data they're collecting is best as possible. So just remind them that supervisors will be monitoring the data that they submit. The supervisors will be looking for missing responses if they skipped a question that should be answered, or irregular or outlier responses. For example, numbers that just don't make any sense. A person that's age 200 doesn't make any sense. And supervisors will also be looking for consistency between their answers. So if they took a photo of a location and collected the GPS point of that location, you should be able to look at satellite imagery with that GPS point and understand that the photo is actually taken there and not somewhere else, that these two things match, are consistent with each other. As a quick side note for trainers who are probably also survey supervisors, this is how you can access the Data for Human Rights training backend. If you click on the sign up button, it takes you to this login page, and notice that there are two different servers. The Data for Human Rights server is on this one, which is for researchers, aid workers, and everyone else. So just go to login, and we're going to be logging into Data for HR. That's the username, and the password is simply D4HR, all lowercase. It's the same username and password that's used when we set up the devices for participants in the training. And as things are submitted into the Data for Human Rights training form, you can click on this and you will start to see data showing up in a table. Now, this form is being used by multiple trainers, so you'll want to find just the data that were submitted on the day by your team if you're going to be doing some analysis. There will be more information about how to use this in a different training for supervisors, but just flagging that this is where you're going to log in if you're going to be observing some of the responses that come in from the field during the day and presenting them back to your participants in the training. So this is a brief overview of how to conduct a training on Kobo Collect. There's much more that you can put in here. This might be paired really nicely with an interview training on how to conduct an interview, how to approach people in the public, how to build rapport, etc. But that will be covered in other modules or can be appended to this training on your own. Thank you for watching and good luck with your training.